come up. Well, with regard to the Mary Dunn wells, I can't speak to those. I don't have anything to do with the water department, so I'd leave it up to those folks to answer that question. But I do recall the study that was done between the for the north central location, I think it was called, and the overarching reasoning for not having it up there was the environmental sensitivity, as you mentioned. The sampling we've done in the sediment did, the data from 2000 to 2007 has shown decreases in metals and hydrocarbons in the sediment. And I think that's directly attributable to the improvements the airport's made with regard to remediation, stormwater, facility maintenance. To answer your question about the sediment contamination that is there, macroinvertebrates were collected. You look at what bugs are living in the soil. You do a food web analysis and see how that impacts from the bugs up to the birds, from the toads to the birds, and that type of food web analysis. That was started as part of the DRI process. There's a pretty significant study in that DRI. This stage 2 portion of that would further answer that question as to whether there is more work that should be done if removal is a bigger benefit than leaving it there and letting it sit.
So just as a follow-up, you're saying that this stage 2 that's still ongoing is going to give us more of a determination on that question?
Yes, exactly.
What's the timetable of that?
We've added that to our 2012 capital improvement plan. So as soon as we get that funded, we'll get started on a assessment.
So upon approval of the CIP from us, your intention or desire is to go forward with that phase 2, which would really get our arms around this question of what to do with that sediment.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for the answer. And if there's somebody else here that could say something about the Mary Dunn,
we have
thank you.
Director DPW, Mark Els.
Mark Els, Director of Public Works. I don't know the specifics. There's 4 Mary Dunn wells. Well 1 and well 3 function with no water quality issues. Well 2 is shut down. Well 2 has been shut down since the influences of the fire academy. Well 2 will not be reopened until those are completely addressed. Well 4 is somewhat limited. It's not used typically because of influences on the ponds and the sensitivity of the environment. It's not a water quality issue. And Airport 1 is good water quality, not an issue at all.
Thank you for that.
Vice President Crocker.
Thank you, and thank you for coming tonight to clarify us, especially traveling on short notice. We've touched on 3 points of issue here. We've identified the problem. We went on to delineation, and we went to remediation, and I'd like a follow-up on all 3 of them if I could. In identifying the problem, we recognize that it's a tenant building that was tied to a leaching system from a floor drain. When was it identified? When was it capped? What do we think the last contribution into this field was?
Identified in the early 90s, and for when they were closed, it was before 1995, which was when I was first involved with the project, specifically the Cape Air hangar, which wasn't Cape Air at that point. And shortly thereafter, the Griffin hangar closed all their floor drains, connected the town sewer through an oil water separator. Currently, again, either all floor drains are either closed or connected to town sewer by oil water separators at the airport.
On the entire facility, regardless of whether it's a tenant-built building or one of our own?
Correct.
Thank you very much. That was just a follow-up in that direction. The delineation, who actually came up with the delineation map? We have a number of wellheads inside that we're trying to poke through and find it. So when was it designed and what was the data?
That's been my doing for the last, since about 97 till currently. So a number of those wells I personally oversaw the installation as well as the treatment system.
So we got the right guy in front of us. Thank you. That's important. On remediation, because it's not moving, is the final cause of remediation removal? What is your remedy?
It would be either the same type of remediation with a similar fence of wells, if you will, up the middle of the plume, just to hit it head on. The idea historically that sometimes if you injected air at the source area, it would migrate down with the plume. It hasn't done that here. the source area is clean and down gradient's clean, so something has to be done directly to that area.
Are we able to, and I guess this is for perhaps more than you, are we able to access some type of super funds to assist us in this? And is this the remediation that we're recommending until it's over, or do you see a time frame that you're going to test this theory and then switch to another method?
Well, again, I think the treatment that we've used out there was effective, and there have been, since that system was installed, again in the late 90s, improvements like using super oxygenated water and other methods of remedial action that could be undertaken. So,
But you're not happy with the parts per million, so we're still trying to get it to a lower level.
And again, if it was, I mean, we are in a drinking water supply area. We're talking parts per billion. If we were not, this would have been a problem done away with, 5 years ago.
Thank you.
Councilor Kennedy.
I wish I had known you were coming, because I do have a lot of questions, and I would have liked to have formulated them in advance. But one thing, and I'm not real clear, is the area of the red hatch in our printouts, the red area of groundwater contamination. Is that the area that? Pardon me? As I say, brown? Oh, yellow. I guess I'm a little challenged, but. Is that the area that that Mr. Crocker was just referring to?
Yes, I believe so, yes.
Okay. And that is the area is that considered a brown field at this point, or?
Yeah, I mean, a brownfield is a general term, I guess, of an area of a contaminated site that it's not a green field, for instance. It is an industrial or a commercial industrial use, so it could be termed a brownfield.
So remediation and removal is rather expensive permitting process. That's what I'm getting at. It's an expensive process.
It is. It's a fairly expensive process, yes. And I believe we have prepared an estimate for the CIP that I don't have the number with me, but it's not a couple $100, no.
Okay. And my last question is sort of related to what we're talking about. The black. Is it the black burn area? Has that been addressed?
Yeah, it has actually. As before acquisition assessment in the soil and groundwater was done similar to this. Wells and borings were installed. Samples were taken as part of the acquisition. Mr. Blackburn's LSP or engineer did some work. We oversaw it for the airport. They remediated some soil on site. They took everything off all the solid waste off site, and all the remaining soil is clean.
Councilor Norman.
Yes, thank you. Just a couple of questions. There's a well-labeled Airport 1 just outside of Lewis Pond. Is that just for on-site irrigation or airport use, or is that decommissioned, or is it sampled? Is it tested? That seems to be the closest test point to Lewis Pond. Based on your groundwater flow, it kind of runs parallel to Route 132, right through the circle through 28. So if you carry that over, down gradient of Lewis Pond, I don't see any monitoring or test wells down gradient of those. I mean, I think that's the rub of it, of what we're getting peppered with as questions is that, are the contaminants that are in these ponds making their way into the groundwater? And if they're traveling in that direction, are we doing anything to intercept the flow and test directly down gradient of them?
It's an active well, be used by the Barnstable Water Department, and it is tested clean, as Mark just indicated a few minutes ago. And we're thinking of, during part of the assessment, the next assessment phase, that we would put some down gradient wells in just to check that theory.
So that Airport 1 is that's tied into the system, and it's tested and monitored, and it's not picking up any of the things that people are making accusations or.
That's correct.
Potential. Okay, thank you.
Councilor Kennedy.
As a follow-up to that, if this money is in the current CIP, for that would be July 2012, when do you anticipate that you would be able to begin this assessment down gradient?
Well, it'd be sometime in fiscal 12 if I get the money, but as soon as we can get that, then we would contract with our engineers to start that assessment process almost immediately.
Okay, thank you.